Okay guys, I'm going to show you how to do some brake pads on the front end of a half-ton Chevy or GMC. I don't care if it's a Suburban like this one, a Tahoe, a Trailblazer, a Blazer, a Yukon. These are all going to be the same. They're shaped a little bit different, but the idea is going to be the same. So you're going to see me do a couple things or mention a couple things that you don't have, you know, tabs and such. Just ignore it. It's for another guy. So everybody can save money here. So we're going to do the front brake pads. Now what we're not going to do is we're not going to bleed these brakes. The way that we're going to do this, we're not going to have to bleed them. As you use your brakes and the brakes get squeezed inside the cylinder, they take up more fluid space. Fluid comes from the slave cylinder down through the line and into the caliper, and it takes up more space. So what we're going to do after we're done is we're going to spread them out before we put the new shoes on or pads on, and we're going to push that fluid back in here without ever introducing air to this system. So we'll never have to bleed the brakes if we do it this way. So let's get started by pulling off the cap off your slave cylinder, brake cylinder, master cylinder. It's going to be right in front of your brake booster. You're going to go ahead and pull the lid off of that. If we don't pull the lid off of it, then what's going to happen is we're going to build pressure in there and air is going to push back down inside and you're going to have to bleed the brakes. We're not going to. Again, I'll show you how. So we pull that off and then we're going to take the tire off. I want to show you the tools that I'm going to use for this particular vehicle. Of course, I got my new brakes, I got my impact. You probably have a four-way or an impact. Grease gun, I always pull that out because I lube my ball joints while I'm there. There's two of them on this side and your steering ball joint, but I'll probably just do the two. And then we're going to use a C-clamp. That's going to push the fluid back into the master cylinder, and we're going to do that extremely slow because you will make a mess. If you go slow, it'll just pop it up and right back into the slave cylinder. Screwdriver, hammer, pair of pliers, an Allen wrench, because on this Suburban the bolts for the caliper are an Allen wrench. Some are 9/16, some are 1/2 inch, and some are an Allen wrench. So we're going to use that, I believe it's a T50 Allen wrench. And we're going to use a wrench as a pry bar, and I'm going to show you how we're going to use that. So it doesn't matter what size wrench you use, just a mediocre size one, about that size, a little smaller, a little bigger, and that's for the leverage for the C-clamp. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to pull the tire off first. There's actually one other tool, the jack. So go ahead and get it up in the air, get your tire off. I'm going to go ahead and lube up this upper ball joint. I'm going to lube the lower ball joint. At this time, anytime I pull a tire, I grab hold of the caliper here. This is your caliper. This holds the brakes. I know a lot of you know this information, so skip past it. I'm just trying to make sure I'm thorough for that guy that wants to save a few bucks that doesn't know and wants to get educated. So grab hold of your caliper, wiggle it. See how I'm just a little bit loose? That's probably just grease. Maybe I have a ball joint going out. But normally if a ball joint is going out, that will really move. So go ahead and lube them up at this point. Upper ball joint, lower ball joint, and I'm going to go ahead and do the steering knuckle since it's right there. So let me lube those up real quick, and then I'll show you how to take this caliper off. Okay, so I went ahead and lubed those up. Again, all three. If you guys never lubed those, all it is just a grease gun, and you can get those for 20 bucks at Walmart even, or any auto parts store. Even the small ones they have, all the Zert fittings are about the same. So you just go on top of there, push it down, you'll hear it snap, feel it snap, and just pump it till it's full. You'll see it start coming out. I always pump a little bit extra on the top of this one, and that's because they always try to sell you that grease that's brake grease only. It's any type of grease. It goes on the back just to keep it from squealing. Don't spend the extra couple bucks for it if you're going to lube it anyway, and hopefully you know this. If you don't know this, then put a little extra there, just to put a little dab on your finger, and I'll show you where that goes. So here's your caliper here. You can look down in there and see your brakes. Your brake shoes, when they're new, have a lot of meat on them. See how thick that is. You can look down in there and see that's not that thick. I'm getting close. My rotor looks good on both sides. I can feel it, and it feels smooth, and that's okay. If it's a little warped, it's alright. It probably should change it if it gets real warped, but you know, if you're just doing a quick shoe change, this is fine. So if you got a lot of grooves, then you can take it down to an auto parts store and they can actually cut that. It's cheap, $8–10 to what they call cut it, turn it is what they call it, and they cut the metal to where it's flat. If not, you can buy a new one for this truck's probably about 40 bucks. Hopefully you won't need to do that because this is all about saving money. So anyway, you can see where those are kind of thin. The other side's even thinner, and that's why I'm changing it. Down here at the bottom, you can see this little tiny piece of metal right there. Right there. that piece of metal gets closer and closer. I'm trying to zoom in there so you can see it. Right there. Gets closer and closer to that rotor. Eventually it will touch it and make a squealing noise. That's when you know you need to change your brakes. So mine is extremely close. Years ago I used to just pull those off and break them. They're very annoying. I knew when to change my brakes. But anyway, so now we're going to go to the caliper. The back of the caliper will have two bolts. One here and one here. Yours might be a 1/2 inch, or it might be a 9/16, or it could be an Allen wrench like mine is. And you just stick it in there and loosen it up. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Take those two bolts off to start off. So we're going to go ahead and pull those. If you have the dust covers here, that's what my screwdriver is for. A lot of times they're hard to pull out. Once you loosen them, it's like they're all the way out, but they won't come out. I pop these dust covers off. Let me see if I can get one off real quick to show you. I like to take them off anyway, and I'll explain to you why in just a second, if I can get it off with one hand here. So I pop the dust cover off. There's my bolt. Once I loosen this, it only wants to come out so far, and sometimes they get hot and they just don't want to come anymore. So then I use my screwdriver right on the edge of it after I believe I've got it threaded all the way out, and I tap it out. So if you need to do that, go ahead and do that. And the inside sleeve of these will slide in, so pay close attention to how we're going to do that, because if you don't, this caliper will never go back on. You can beat on it all you want and it won't go back on. So I'll show you that trick as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull out these two T50 bolts, and if yours again is a 1/2 inch or a 9/16, pull them off, and let's get this caliper off. Okay, just as I suspected, I had to tap them out with a hammer. That one came out no problem, but the sleeve came out with that one, so we'll just tap that out and put it right back in the way it goes. So at this point now, both bolts are out, and the caliper won't come off. Wiggle it, move it, it won't come off. This is where your hammer comes in. You're going to hit it right there. This is part of the caliper. This part is going to stay on the vehicle. Won't do no good hitting it. So hit the caliper right there and knock it off. See all that brake dust? Don't be afraid to hit it as long as you hit it right there. Do not hit the rotor. There we go. So it's off. So now at this point, we can go ahead and pull the brakes off. Again, we are not going to mess with this line back here. That fluid line is going to stay. This brake pad can come off. You're going to stick a screwdriver in there. I don't know if I can do this with one hand. Anyway, let me try it. You're going to stick a screwdriver in there like that, and you're just going to pry it towards us. Let's see if I can get a foot up against there. If not, I'll have to shut the video off of it and grab it with two hands. I should have had somebody video this so you can get a better, clear picture of what's going on. Okay, so there we go. It snapped right out. So that brake pad came out. You can see that thing was definitely due to be changed too. It's down there a ways. Still good there, but okay, at this point you can see the cylinder is out almost an inch. This cylinder needs to be pushed back. We're going to leave this brake in there because now we're going to use our C-clamp. Put the C-clamp right at the back of the slave cylinder, and I got to thread that out. C-clamp on the back of the slave cylinder. Put that part right on your brake shoe. That way we don't hurt anything and that cylinder goes down evenly. Now, you want to crank this super slow, about this fast. Tightening it. Don't go too fast because the fluid's going to come up out of there too quick and it's going to spill on the ground like I did on the other side. You want to go extremely slow. Just let it barely spit up and back into the cylinder, master cylinder. So we're going to crank this slow. Now this is going to get extremely tight. That's where our big wrench comes in. Use it like a cheater bar. Put it on there just like that and crank her down. I went the wrong way, but you got the idea. So I'm going to go ahead and push that cylinder down all the way. Then we'll take this brake out of here. If you look right here where I showed you these bolts, see how that sleeve sticks out? Or got stuck with it? The other one's not. It's in there. But it is stuck out. This needs to be pounded back. If you don't pound that back, you will never get this cylinder back on. You'll fight with it and trying to... Alright, so the other phone died, sorry. So anyway, yeah, we're going to pound this back. We can do it after we run this down. So let's put the caliper on there. Let's run this down super slow. Take this brake pad out, throw it away afterwards. And don't ever beat in there with a hammer or use a socket or anything like that. Just use the brake pad, the old one, because you'll end up punching a hole through that and you'll be replacing the caliper or rebuilding the caliper. So again, down real slow and tap that out. Let me get that done. Okay, so we have that tap back. We got the brake shoe out of there, cylinder's all the way down. So now we're going to take the brake shoes here, and you can see where these are going to touch anything. Right in between the two of these, and right in between the two of these. And at this point, we're just going to grab a little grease that we had up there from doing our zert fittings, and we're just going to rub a little bit in between each. This will keep the squealing away in the future. That brake stuff that they sell you, this is it. The other thing that you can do is you can take a little bit and you can just put it on both. I'm sorry, it goes on this side, on both sides by the hole there where they also go, and a little bit on this one, and that's about it. You can rub a little bit. You don't have to rub it all around the whole back. You just need it on those high spots. Any spot that's high is the side or the spots that are going to rub. Don't ever put it on the pad side, because then your brakes will slip. So all right, we did that. Now we're going to go ahead and slide the brakes in there. If you notice the difference in these, the one that clips in the center like this and folds back, this will always be the one that goes up against the slave cylinder, because that has to push inside the hole. And the other thing you can look at is the direction of it. It's kind of half mooned like that. It has to be half mooned as well as rubbing on the brakes. So you can't really mess it up. You can't get it wrong, as long as you pay attention to those two things. So we're just going to slide it in there like that, and it will snap in. And this one is kind of a pain in the butt to put on. You can pry, you can push, you can teeter with it, and it just doesn't want to go on because that just won't gap it. The easiest way to do this one is just set it there, hold it with your hand, and smack that sucker hard with a hammer right there and right there on the metal part, and it'll clamp right down. So let me go ahead and throw that on. Okay, so just like that, we got it on. Then we're going to slide it up here. And again, make sure you have those sleeves pushed backwards. Now, the bottom one needs to go in first. It's going to slide in just like that, and then it rotates forward like that. Don't try to put the top in and pry it down, because it won't go. Make sure your rotor's all the way up. Some of these rotors will hang loose like that. Some of them won't. Depends on your vehicle, but most of them hang just like this. So I got the bottom in. Now I can tap the top in, line my bolts up, drop one in each, and tighten them back up. Okay, so got them back on, got them tight, got the dust covers back on. Everything feels good. I noticed this does not shake anymore because we lubed it up. And this thing probably needed lubed a little more often than what I have been doing, but there it is. You got a little bit of grease on the rotor. Make sure you get that off, because what you don't want to happen is you don't want to slip. So wipe that off, and we are good to go. We've got brakes. So I sure hope that you attempt this since you're watching the video, because you can save money. I'm going to go ahead and put the tire back on. I got one more detail for you. Let's look at our master cylinder. See our fluid? I don't know if you remember in the beginning how low that was. Look how full it is now. We don't even have to add fluid to it. So the only time you should have to add fluid is as your brakes are wearing down and it's taking up that gap, like we said, and it's pushing the fluid back. When you change the brakes, if you had to add the fluid, you're going to end up that this is going to overflow. And but you shouldn't have that problem if you just added a little bit as the brakes go down and then fill it back up. The kicker here, one thing that you have to do after you get this lid on, let me get it on. I don't have the tire on yet, but let me throw the tire on and I'll tell you. Don't leave. Okay, I'm back. I know you didn't even go nowhere. Okay, here's the one thing that you want to do no matter what. Do not get in here and start pumping these brakes. Don't push these brakes. Don't touch these brakes. Start your vehicle first. If at this point, if you pump your brakes, you're going to suck air that's left in that slave cylinder back down through the line. You're going to have to bleed these brakes. So at this point, do not touch your brakes yet. Start your vehicle. Oh, sounds like I'm going to show you guys how to change plugs. So start your vehicle, and now I'm going to slowly push the brakes down. 1, let it come up. 2, let it come up. 3rd time, push hard, real hard. Hold it for a second, let it come up. That's it, you've got brakes. They are perfect. They actually feel better than they did before. So I hope this helped you out, and I hope you try it out and save a few bucks. Don't just watch the video and decide not to do it. And the other thing is, if you got any comments, I hope they're all good. If you got smart-ass comments, please just keep them to yourself. I know everybody's got easier ways to do it, but again, if you're watching my video, then you need to know how to do something. Don't be a smart-ass. Anything else I can help you guys with, leave a message, let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can on YouTube. Other than that, have a good day.